Welcome to another Tech Help video brought to you by AccessLearningZone.com. I'm your instructor, Richard Rost. Today we're going to talk about the form opening events, the three most important events that run when you open a form. There's onOpen, onLoad, and onCurrent. We're going to talk about what each of those do and when you want to use each of them and what the differences are. Today's question comes from Colin in London, UK, one of my Platinum members. Colin says, I searched on YouTube for a video explaining the difference between onOpen and onLoad in Access, but one of yours didn't show up. You mentioned before that we should let you know if that happens, so I wanted to give you a heads up. Yes, I appreciate that very much. Thank you, Colin. One of my goals is to make sure that if you search for anything Access related, one of my videos shows up, and if it doesn't, let me know and I'll make one. So I'm making one. The funny thing is, I have actually covered these different events in different videos of mine, but they might not have, onOpen isn't the theme of the video. OnLoad isn't the theme, but I cover it. So if you've been following my channel for any period of time, you've probably seen these before, but maybe you didn't understand the intricacies between these two different events, these three different events, actually. So let's talk about them. All right, first up, this is a developer level video. What does that mean? Well, that means if you've never done any VBA programming before in Access and you want to learn, go watch this video first. It'll teach you everything you need to know to get started in about 20 minutes. All right, so when a form opens in Access, several events fire. There's lots of them. There's a bunch more. There's onActivate and a whole lot of them. But we're going to cover the three most important ones. There's onOpen, onLoad, and onCurrent. onOpen fires first before the form is fully loaded, and this event can be canceled. All right, it's the only one of these that you can actually cancel the event and say, no, I don't really want to do that, exit out, okay, and the form won't open. After that, onLoad events. It fires after onOpen when the form is fully loaded and the data is ready to be displayed. Okay, and I mean all of the data, not just the first record. We'll talk about that in more detail in a second. And then onCurrent fires last, and that's when the record is loaded, and it actually fires every time you move to a new record, not just when the form loads. Okay, and I've got whole separate videos on the onCurrent event. Now, the onOpen event is best for checking things before the form fully loads. You can use it to check user permissions. If you've got user level passwords and stuff set up, you can check their permissions. Hey, does this person have access to use this form? If not, you can cancel it. Restricting access to a form based on business hours or other conditions. We'll see how this works in just a second. Validating prerequisites before the form is displayed. Hey, is this customer marked as an actual customer, or are they still in like the pre-customer phase where they're not an actual purchasing customer yet? Okay, and you can cancel the form's opening by setting cancel equals true. Let's see an example. Let's do the one with the business hours. It's the simplest one I can think of. All right, here I am in the Tech Help free template. This is a free database you can grab off my website if you want to. And in here, I got a customer form and I got an order form. And let's say, for whatever silly reason, your business has a rule that you can't open the order form outside of business hours, right? Between 9 to 5. So how could we prevent that? Well, you could put the code in the button, but let's pretend, for the sake of class, that you can get to this form from many other places. So you don't want to have to code it in all those different buttons. We can put it in the form's onOpen event. So go to Design View, bring up the form's properties. Here's onLoad, but we want onOpen. OnOpen goes first. ... That'll bring up my code builder. There you are. Let me resize this for you here. Okay, get over there. I'm in the form open event. Notice form open has a parameter here called cancel. You'll see in a minute, load does not have that. And here we can just check to see what the current hour is, right? So we'll say if hour of right now is less than 9, or the hour of right now is greater than 5, then we can give them a message box, right? Come back during business hours. And this is the important part. Cancel equals true. Yes, I know it's technically an integer and true is a Boolean value, but it's just what everybody does. Cancel equals true, okay? And then end if. Save it. Always throw in a debug compile once in a while. I'm going to close this. I'm going to close this. And I'm going to reopen the order form and come back during business hours. Now, it's currently 3:59 p.m., so I shouldn't have seen that. And I'm going to leave this mistake in the video because I just made this mistake You're going to make it too one of these days. All right. And here's another thing that comes up too. We'll talk about this in a second as well. If I hit OK, I get an open form action was canceled. Why is that? Let's take a look at the debug first. If you have an open form command and a button, and that command gets canceled, if that on open event cancels the form opening, this line will generate an error. So if you know that's going to happen, make sure you handle it with an on error resume next. That means if this guy throws an error, which it will if that form open is canceled, it'll just ignore it and move on. Okay, but let's take a look at that other problem. What happened now? It's 4 o'clock now, so this shouldn't be coming up. Let's take a look at the code again. Let's go into my order form, design view. Let's go back into the code and see if you could figure out what's going on here. Hour has to be less than 9, but greater than 5. Anybody? Pause the video if you have to. Think about it. Well, the hour is a number from 1 to 24. So you got to use 24-hour time. So 5 o'clock is actually 1,700 hours. Okay? I do this a lot. And oops, someone's beaming in too. That was the temporal police from the 26th century. I just got yelled at for having a time mistake in one of my videos. All right, won't happen again. No, but seriously, I do this a lot. I sometimes don't think, and I put in here, I'm thinking 6 p.m. Okay, but now save it and let's try it again. And it worked. It opened up. Okay, but again, if I want to fake that, I can come in here. Now I know it's 4 o'clock. So if I put in here 14, let's say it's 9 to 2 p.m., right? And then I try to run it. And it says come back during business hours. Okay? So that's one thing. That's the benefit of form open. That's pretty much the only time I ever use the on open event is if I'm checking to make sure that the user can get into the form. Right? Everything else I usually put an onload event. But as you're going to see as we go through here, most things work pretty much the same between on open and on load. All right, the only major difference is that the open event can be canceled, the load event cannot. So let's continue on. All right, on open can be canceled. That's the big one. We're going to bold that, right? And yes, this is PowerPoint. Okay, and I'm off my slide here. Let me fix that. There we go. All right, what's next? On load event is next. Now, the onload event is best for performing initialization that depends on the form's data and not just the first record, all of them. Okay? Running code that modifies the form after all the records are loaded, or ensuring the form is fully ready before interacting with ActiveX controls. Now, I personally almost never use ActiveX controls. These are things like the web browser control or the progress bar. Once in a while, I'll use them, and I've got some other videos where I do use them, but I use them extremely sparingly. All right, but the onload event happens after on-open. On-open basically says, all right, you're good to go. You can continue loading the form now. Now we're on to the onload event. In fact, let's do one thing. I want to show you the timing sequence here. Here's how you can see how these run. Let's go into the customer form here. I'm going to go to the form's properties again. Now let's go to the onload event. And I'm just going to put in here message box load so we can see how these open. Okay, now, if you want to go to the on open event, you don't got to go back here. Just come up to this box right there. See how this is on form? Come over here, drop this down, and pick on open. Where are you? Open, right there. Now we're in the open event. So message box open. Open, there we go. And one more, let's do the current event. That's the last one we're going to talk about, current. And here we are, message box current. All right, save that. Let's close it. And now we'll see the order that they open in. Ready? Click. All right, the open event. Notice the form isn't displayed yet. Load event is next. And then current event goes. See? And then as I move from record to record, the current event will fire again. See? Okay? All right, so that's the timing of those three things. Let's get rid of that. And all right, I just want to show you the timing. Now, you may see some other videos out there, I know I did when I was doing research for this, that says that you can't access any of the form's data in the on-open event. You have to get the form's data in the onload event. That's just not true. Right? There are a lot of wrong sources out there. And trust me, I spent about an hour researching this earlier. You can access some of the form's data in the on-open event, like the current record. The first record the properties are available. Things like the properties, like the caption and stuff. You can get those. The form's width. You can get that in both of these events. But what you can't get is the entire set of data. For example, back in our customer form here, let's go and do this. Let's one more time. Let's go into the load event. And I'm going to say message box load. And this time I'm going to say and first name. Show me the first name record. Okay. And I'll do the same thing in the onOpen event. I said first name record, first name field, message box, open, first name. Okay. Now let's close and reopen the form. Okay. See, open, it has Richard. That's the name of the first person in the record. See, Richard. Both of those have access to it. So both events, the open and load event, they have access to some of the data, specifically the first record. Okay. But load happens after all of the records have loaded into the form. If you've got a form with multiple records in it, and you can do things like get a record count. Let me show you that one. Okay. If I say, show me me.record set clone dot record count. And yes, that beep happens. I don't know why. Talk to the access guys. Sammy, put that on the list. Every time you do that and you hit the dot there, that comes up. But this is how you get the count of how many records are in the record set clone. In other words, how many records are loaded into this form, basically. Okay, we'll do the same thing down here in the open event. Now remember, open goes first before all the records are loaded. Ready? Close it. All right. Open thinks there's one record. Load sees all 33 of them. And that is, of course, the correct answer. So the open event gets some of the information. The load event gets all of it. All of the records are available. It knows how many records have loaded and all of that stuff. So if you have stuff that you want to do that is dependent upon knowing how many records are in the underlying data set, then you want to use the load event. That's really the only thing that I can think of that requires the load event. Most things you want to do, you can do in both open and load. You want to hide fields, you can do it in both. You want to set the caption, set properties, you can do it in both. Really, the load event is only necessary when you have to make sure that the entire set of data has loaded in the form. I pretty much use both interchangeably all the time, unless, again, that specific instance. I use open specifically to cancel stuff. That's mostly for doing validations and things. All right, and finally, we got the onCurrent event. Like I said, I got a whole separate video on the onCurrent event. I'll put a link to it down below in the links section. You can go watch that one as you want. This is for updating the form each time a new record is selected, dynamically changing control properties based on the current record's data, highlighting inactive records, or performing per record validation. For example, I'll just give you a quick one since I've got a whole separate video on this, but let's say is active here. I got some customers that are active and some that are not. Let's say if they're not active, I'll make the background gray. Okay, and you can look at each record and see what you want to do. So let's come into here. Let's go into, let me get rid of the events we got in there first. Well, let's go to the onCurrent. Here's the onCurrent event. We can get rid of load and open. Whoops, not too much. Get rid of that stuff there. Okay. And in the form current event, let's say if is active, then, in other words, if is active equals true, if that box is checked, me.detail.backcolor, because the form itself doesn't have a background color, but all of the sections do. You can refer to it by me.detail or me.section0. There's a whole bunch of different ways you can refer to that. Again, I got different videos on this stuff. We'll say equals RGB. That's red, green, and blue. Let's go gray. So this will be like a light gray, like 100, 100, 100. All right. Otherwise, me.detail.backcolor equals, let's go with a light blue, RGB. Let's go 100, 100, 255. And whenever I do colors like this, I like to put next to it what that means. That's a gray, and that's a blue. And I always get these color codes wrong. So let's see what we got. Ready? Let's close it. Open it. Okay. That's an active one, so that's gray. I think I got them backwards. Yeah, I got them backwards. I got them backwards. But you see how it's working, right? As you go from record to record. All right, let's fix those colors. All right, this one, let's say If is active, we just got to flip these. We'll do this. 255 and 100. And that's blue. And that's gray. Okay. And if you want it lighter, just increase these numbers. They go from 1 to 255. So we can go, let's go 200. 200. 200. And we'll make this not so dark of a blue. There we go. This should look better. Ready? Oh, that's nice. That's a nice light blue and a nice light gray. See? It's based on the active. So that's the on-current event. I use on-current constantly. I'm always using the on-current event. But you don't want to put stuff in the on-current event that can be handled in the on-open or on-load events, because then you're just running code that you don't need to run. If it's something that only has to run once, put it in the on-open or on-load events. If you need to check something from record to record, that's when it goes in the on-current event. All right, so quick summary. On open is before the data is fully loaded. You get some data, but not all of it. Checking conditions before opening or canceling an open based on whatever reason. On load event is after the form's data is fully loaded. That's how I like to think of it, right? You're fully loaded, and I don't mean you had too much to drink. And you can run code that depends on the fully loaded data. On current, every time the record changes, updating the UI based on record data, changing the color like we just did. That kind of stuff. If you want to learn more about the sequence of events and all these different events and when they run and when they fire and what they do, I cover it in my Access Advanced Level 1 class. Why Advanced? Well, I got these 6 classes called the Advanced classes, and they're sandwiched between the expert lessons and the developer lessons. And the advanced lessons cover mostly macros. But the macros run in the same events that the actual VBA events run in. So I teach the sequence of events and what fires when in the advanced lessons. That's why when developers say, hey, can I skip the macro classes? I usually say no, because there's some good stuff in these lessons. All right? There's only 6 of them. And sometimes macros have their place. There are a few things you can only do with macros. And I talk about those in the advanced classes. So if you want to learn more, check it out. So there you go. There's the form opening events. And thank you again to Colin for letting me know that there's a gap in knowledge when it comes to my videos out there. If you want to see more videos like this one, post a comment down below. Guess what? There are other events like on unload and on close when you close forms. And those have their own special things you can do. Like you can validate to make sure the user typed in the right data before they're allowed to close a form. So if you want to see a video on that stuff, post a note down below, and I'll think about it. Maybe I'll make one. I already covered it in developer classes. I'm just kidding. I'll make one for you if I get enough people to post down below. But that's going to do it, folks. That is your tech help video for today. Hope you learned something. Live long and prosper, my friends. I'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button right now and give me a like. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel, which is completely free. And make sure you click that bell icon and select all to receive notifications whenever I post a new video. Do you need help with your Microsoft Access project? Whether you need a tutor, a consultant, or a developer to build something for you, check out my Access Developer Network. It's a directory I put together personally of Access experts who can help with your project. Visit my website to learn more. Any links or other resources that I mentioned in the video can be found in the description text below the video. Just click on that show more link right there. YouTube's pretty good about hiding that, but it's there. Just look for it. Now, if you have not yet tried my free Access Level 1 course, check it out now. It covers all the basics of Microsoft Access, including building forms, queries, reports, tables, all that stuff. It's over 4 hours long. You can find it on my website or my YouTube channel. I'll include a link below you can click on. And did I mention it's completely free? And if you like level 1, level 2 is just $1. That's it. And it's free for members of my YouTube channel at any level. Speaking of memberships, if you're interested in joining my channel, you get all kinds of awesome perks. Silver members get access to all of my extended cut tech help videos, and there's hundreds of them by now. They also get one free beginner class each month, and yes, those are from my full courses. Gold members get the previous perks plus access to download all of the sample databases that I build in my tech help videos. Plus you get access to my code vault where I keep tons of different functions and all kinds of source code that I use. And gold members get one free expert class every month after completing the beginner series. Platinum members get all of the previous perks, plus they get all of my beginner courses, all of them from every subject, and you get one free advanced or developer class every month after finishing the expert series. And you can become a diamond sponsor and have your name listed on the sponsor page on my website. So that's it. Once again, my name is Richard Rost. Thank you for watching this video brought to you by accesslearningzone.com. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something today. Live long and prosper, my friends. I'll see you next time.